But this whole notion of, well, they could learn, they have to learn English before they get to the United States. Are we just going to bring in people from Great Britain and Australia?
Jim, actually, I have to honestly say, I am shocked at your statement that you think that only people from Great Britain and Australia would know English. It reveals your cosmopolitan bias to a shocking degree that in your mind, no, this is an amazing moment. This is an amazing moment. That you think only people from Great Britain or Australia would speak English is so insulting to millions of hard-working immigrants who do speak English from all over the world.
Could that be the next White House communications director? A man known to play for the all-important audience of one. I want to bring in our panel. Joining us at the table today, Associated Press White House reporter Jonathan Lemire, former Democratic Congresswoman Donna Edwards, now a senior fellow at the Brennan Center for Justice, Jason Johnson, politics editor for The Root and an MSNBC contributor, and Bloomberg Businessweek editor Megan Murphy. Jonathan, let's start with your reporting. You've got a new piece out about the search for a new White House communications director.
What we just saw there from Stephen Miller was viewed upon in the West Wing and in the Oval Office as a star turn. The president is very fond of Stephen Miller. He was the opening act for many campaign rallies throughout last year where he would deliver fiery denunciations of Hillary Clinton. He is someone who, of course, has shaped a lot of policy within the White House. He's a protege of Jeff Sessions, who now is sort of back in the president's good graces again. Our reporting indicates that while he may not be necessarily the next communications director, and let's remember the president has cycled through 3 of those already, at the very least, he is going to play a larger role in shaping White House messaging. To this point, a lot of that stems from the president himself. But they like this. They like this fight. I don't think it's a coincidence that the 2 media outlets that Stephen Miller picked on last week were the New York Times and CNN, the president's least favorite.
I've also heard this, and that the job of communications director is done by a team, that Kellyanne Conway has some of those responsibilities, Hope Hicks has some of those responsibilities before he resigned, Sean Spicer was doing some of that work, and Stephen Miller has some of that work. But what does it tell us about Donald Trump if this is the man he wants to shape his message? Because the message seems to be locked and loaded with that 33% of Americans that will be with him no matter what. But Stephen Miller doesn't seem like the figure inside the West Wing who can do what Donald Trump wants, which is to broaden beyond. I mean, with 33%, can't pass any laws. With 33%, you can't get reelected. With 33%, you really can't even make sure that the House doesn't turn Democratic and prevent your own impeachment should the investigation take that turn. So 33% gets you nothing. It's weak and it's small. So what does he think Stephen Miller can do for him?
It would seem an unlikely choice to try to grow your base. I completely agree with that. I mean, Stephen Miller does seem like yet another move to double down to the base. Certainly he gave voice in his appearance in the briefing room last week about some immigration stuff, which the president, of course, made a centerpiece of his campaign, but has done very little on since he's taken office. I think the president also, as we well know, he's a counterpuncher, and he feels like, in his mind, that he is unfairly under attack from the media, from the Russia investigation, and this is someone he thinks can hit back.
But can we just break that down a little bit in terms of that policy that Stephen Miller was actually advocating? That wasn't a policy that Donald Trump had been a centerpiece of his campaign. This is radically slashing not illegal immigration, but legal immigration, and taking it down, separating families, looking at people who come into this country on a legal basis to get jobs. And the most interesting thing is his base doesn't even support a lot of that policy, and it won't affect the economy in the way it does. There's no evidence showing that it will actually take up wages of lower income workers. That's actually happening by itself in the economy. Again, I think it's an example of them misjudging, like with the transgender ban that was announced in terms of the military, getting out ahead of their own base. I'm not sure we'd ever thought we'd be in that situation.
Well, I don't think my issue with Stephen Miller, I want to be very clear about this. The word racist gets thrown around a lot, I think sometimes unfairly. Stephen Miller associates himself with white nationalists. Those are terrorist sympathizers. People like Richard Spencer, these are people who believe that America is a white country.
And just tick through some of the evidence for our viewers. Just don't, because it's a serious charge.
Yeah, his long history in high school of giving speeches about black and brown people being there to serve, him breaking up relationships with people, his writings when he was in college at Duke University about the problems of people in color and the dangers of multiculturalism and insulting any and all logic or ideas or ideologies coming from people of color as somehow diminishing what makes America great. And then and his long, strong association with Richard Spencer, who is the head of the white nationalists in America today. That is a dangerous person to have in the White House.
You know what I think says a lot about him, Donna, is that he came into Trump's orbit because he was an aide for Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions was attacked by Donald Trump viciously. If there was one man that I expected to walk out the door of the West Wing when his boss, when his key to the kingdom was thrown under the bus by the president, it was this guy.
Well, in fact, I didn't expect him to walk out, and the reason is because if you look at Jeff Sessions is in the Department of Justice doing all the things that he wanted to do all along on voter suppression, on criminal justice, and all the rest.
But the agenda
Stephen
aside,
Miller,
if you have any loyalty to, I mean, in politics, you know the expression, dance with the one who brung you. The person who brought him to the Trump party was Jeff Sessions.
No, but the point is that he knew he couldn't get rid of Jeff Sessions. I mean, you could see that building in the Congress, and Jeff Sessions is exactly where he wants to be, I think, for all the wrong reasons. And look, Miller isn't being touted because he is great on message. We could see that in that press conference. What he's being touted for is that he's in for the fight, and he's going to wage that fight on behalf of this. I won't even call it a base anymore, because 28% ain't a base.
No.
Exactly.
Last point.
Yeah, and despite taking some blowback for the botched immigration ban, the initial rollout, I mean, Stephen Miller has played the West Wing politics very well. He's very close to a number of different factions in the building, including Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump.
Power players, to say the least. All right, when we come